pretty much, you know, horror, it's like just in my blood, you know. It was just something that, I don't know, just something that caught my attention. I remember the first actual movie me watching, when I was growing up, it was my dad liked the Nightmare on Elm Street films with Robert Englund. That's pretty much what got me started. But it was actually my first Romero film that I can recall seeing was actually a 1990 remake with Tony Todd. And that's what pretty much started me with the zombies from there. I saw that and realized it was a remake. I ended up watching the 1968 version, and I did like a compare and contrast with it. But went from that. I was always like a major fan of Lucio Fulci. There was something with his horror and zombies, even not his zombie films. If anybody ever seen, you know, the New York Ripper or the Tortured Duckling, it was, you know, for them to be low B films and something like that, you know, it was the gore that he was able to create there, you know, just the realism of it. But yeah, it was like, you know, Tim was saying with the series, like we said, there was 8 Hellraiser films, stuff like that. If you look at the Fulci zombie series, there was, you know, the first one, they had the second one, which confused me because it was the same film, but I think they just called it 2 because it actually released in America. I believe I was a little confused with that, but then there was 3, 4, and 5, which were just, you know, whatever, you know, buy them to have them with your collection. But
hey, 5 had Robert Vaughn.
What's that?
5 had Robert
It
Vaughn.
was the Killer Birds, I think. Was that
Killing Birds, I think, is 4th.
Was that the 4th
Yeah,
one?
I think it's the 5th one that has Robert Vaughn in it.
Yeah, but it was between, you know, Romero and Fulci. And it was Romero that pretty much got me wanting to do zombies. It's like Greg said, man, he just loves the monsters and he wants to write the monsters, and I'm like with the zombies, you know, I just love the zombies, love writing the zombies. But I was also into like the paranormal, ghosts, supernatural stuff where actually I would go on, I would find haunted locations in Pittsburgh and actually go and do investigations, my own little, you know, ghost hunting stuff. And what I thought of for a next project was to write a book with all my, you know, haunted locations that I found, and, you know, do one story of the myth, one story of the truth, and then my own personal experience, you know. Yeah, there's just something, you know, it's like somebody took a needle of like horror, like, you know, and shot me with it. It's just something that just grew on me since I was a little kid. And I'm gonna try to get my daughter started on it too, you know, like she came to Horror Realm last year to the Zombie Fest. She's in the zombie walk. See how she goes with that, keep her going, you know.
Very good. Looks like we have time for one last question. Your opinion, what's the current state of the genre in general, whether it's movies, books, the new formats? Are you happy with the way things going? Do you think it's too commercial? Is it too underground? Where do you think it stands, in your own personal opinion? There's no right or wrong answer to that.
I don't think it ever to be too commercial. I think the 3D is basically the new remake phase. I think the remake phase is dying out finally. 3D doesn't hurt, like the Piranha remake. 3D was awesome for it. But you take a film like the 4th Final Destination movie, which was supposed to be the final one, and they come up with Final Destination 5, which is in 3D also. That one I thought was just pathetic. I mean, there was hardly any 3D in there worth watching, except the beginning sequence. After that, there was no point in having the 3D. You should have just went and rented Nightmare on Elm Street, The Final Nightmare. I mean, to have that.
There always seems to be, in a lot of the 3D films, there's only a couple of standout 3D scenes.
Yeah, it just, to me, what it comes down to right now is 3D is the new gimmick, but the problem is too many studios are using it to make that extra money on the tickets that they feel they're losing out on, even though they're not losing out on it. But overall, I think horror films, now that the remakes are dying out, I feel they're thriving a lot more. I think it's, especially outside of the US, I think horror films, books, everything is thriving a lot more just because they're trying to get it commercialized over in those areas.
Great.
Well, first of all, tomorrow morning at 11:30 a.m., please come see my film Slime City Massacre. We're doing a live commentary screening. Like my fellow writers here, I brought my daughter to this convention. I think it's important to blow up their imagination as best as we can. I have no problem with the subject matter. When my daughter was born, I stopped going to movies. I'm a stay-at-home parent, which is how I found time to sell 7 novels during the last 5 years. So I'm really not up on Hollywood horror. When I see the trailers, I shrug. When I go see one, I really don't care for what I see. 3D will die, just as it has every time before. The 3D TVs, forget about it, because they're going to stop making the 3D movies, except for James Cameron in a few years. It's not going to last. It's not the new wave. I run a film festival in Buffalo. We're going in our 2nd year. The first year we were 4 days. This year we're 5 days. I see a lot of independent films because of that. And I got to tell you, there are some great movies being made by indies. It's just hard to find them.
Yes.
I'm telling you, every year, I'm only going on 2 years here, but there's at least a half dozen films, a mixture of shorts and features, where I am stunned by the degree of storytelling and the technical proficiency that some of these independent filmmakers are able to achieve, and a level of dread that approaches some of the J-horror stuff out there. I mean, really good stuff. So it's out there, you just got to look for it.
Yeah, a lot of people are not willing to look through that.
It's true, because
that's
you don't know what you're getting in for if you go to a film festival, unless you really enjoy festivals. If you're a filmmaker and you get passes to attend a whole festival, you'll see a ton of great stuff. And some of them will go on to will go on to get releases. We had a film last year called El Monstro del Mar by an Australian filmmaker, which was like a Russ Meyer film and a Roger Corman giant octopus movie put together. It kicked ass. It showed in our venue, the screening room in Buffalo, and it just happens that the guy who owns that is a programmer for a company in Montreal that programs digital cinema. So it got a limited theatrical release, and my film is getting the same thing next month. That's 50 theaters and 10 in Canada that conceivably could show it. So there is some venues for these films, but there's limited promotion for them.
Matt?
I don't think it's getting commercial too much, besides, you know, with the remakes. If you look at the only remake that I actually rather enjoyed over the past 8 years, something like that, there was a Dawn of the Dead remake. I was more of a slow moving zombie fan. You know, it's like George Romero says, you know, they're dead, they gotta be slow, but that was probably the only fast moving zombie film that I enjoyed. But you know, it's the independent horror stuff like this that keeps it strong, you know, because there's a lot of people out there that aren't into the horror, but there is, you know, when you bring, you know, like horror around, you know, the Pittsburgh convention, it's really the only thing that happens in Pittsburgh is everybody gets together, you know, it's like one big family who's into horror. I think I think me and Tim talked about this before too. I think the independent horror is going to decline, and Hollywood is running out of ideas. Like, look at the Friday, or you want to say Friday the 13th. Look at the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. You know, like, I don't know if anybody actually enjoyed that, but if you watch the old school ones, it's, man, what are they doing? Same, I mean, there was a Texas Chainsaw Massacre remakes. Those were pretty good. But
Don't forget they're remaking the remake.
yeah,
And all the sequels were remakes to begin with.
yeah, there's just so
Yeah, absolutely. It's
The Hills
funny.
Have
I mean,
Eyes. You know,
There-
I watched the sequel to that. That had
Yeah.
nothing to do with the original sequel. The first one I enjoyed. You know, this one, what was it? They were on a school bus. And the original one, the second one didn't seem like it had anything to do with the.
yeah, they often do that a lot. They just kind of disregard whatever they feel they want to in the sequels, and just go in, you know, we're going to go in this direction. Well, that contradicts what happened before. Don't worry about that. You know, nobody will remember.
The Last House on the Left, that wasn't, you know, I still like the first one. I always kind of want, you know, the female crowd. Like, if you've never seen it before, and there's something like women watching it, it may take offense to
Oh, come on, it's family entertainment.
someone. Yeah. But, you know, I'm still a fan of all the original ones. I just think I watched the remake. They had a remake of Final Destination already. They made one about a year or two ago.
No, it's not a remake.
What was that?
There's
It's a
another
sequel.
another sequel.
But actually, there's a movie called that I watched in the past year called Soul Survivor come out in like 82, 83.
Yep.
And Final I never knew about this movie. I sat down and watched it. I was like, holy crap, Final Destination really stole this.
Absolutely. I remember the movie you're
I'm
talking
still
about.
waiting, and I know me and you talked about that before. I would love to see a remake of Evil Dead. And
They're
just to
working
see
They're
on
doing
that
that.
right now.
They
I
are.
was gonna think
Yeah.
about technology now and how how gory the movie was originally, which you watch it, you're like, okay. You can tell that's. I actually enjoyed the movie.
Come on, I enjoyed
the first one though, not too much the second. And Army of Darkness, I had it just to complete the collection. I don't know what Sam Raimi is.
But are you afraid that the Evil Dead remake is going to get sanitized so that way they can have a big wide open release and put it in 10 million theaters and it has a big studio backing? It just, to me, it just seems like it's not going to be, it's not going to have that cool factor that the original did. As cheesy as the effects and everything were, there was just something cool about that. And that's what I'm afraid of, especially with a lot of the remakes when they come out. They've got studio backing in a big way, so therefore the studio is going to want certain things. The storyline's going to have to follow a certain formula. So I'm always afraid about that when they take movies like that and decide that they're going to, reimagine them for another generation or whatever they decide that they're going to call it this week.
I'd rather see a movie of the musical.
Yeah,
See a remake.
absolutely.
Yep.
How did everybody feel about Rob Zombie's Halloween?
That's my kid's three.
That was kind of chocolate sweet.
It's a panel in itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
The first one wasn't too bad. I like how we elaborated with his childhood, school and everything. Like in the first one, it was kind of vague, but I give it that much with Rob Zombie's remakes. But
I
that's
can't
something
think of a movie I've hated more in the last 10 years than
Oh,
Rob
the
Zombie's
Friday,
Halloween.
the Friday the 13th. The new Friday the 13th. Film.
Angry watching it. Well, I didn't really care about that.
Yeah.
Those weren't great. Carpenter's film's great.
Yeah.
So.
How about the next Thing movie? The next
Yeah,
Thing movie.
The
Well,
20
that
The
that
fourth
may
one.
show you what today's sophisticated special effects add to a story, which looks very similar anyway.
Yeah, 20 years too late.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we're a little bit short on time here, so I think we're going to wrap up. I'd like to thank you all for being part of the panel,
Thank you.
and I hope you guys enjoyed the weekend. Anybody have any books that they want to plug? Anyone? Tim Gross, I know you got a book you want to plug.
Big ass book of gross movie reviews, $24.95, published by Library of the Living Dead. 1,500 reviews and 660 pages.
That's a big book.
Yes, you can kill zombies with it.
It's a large chunk of your life in those pages.
Oh yes.
Come to my table. I have all my books and most of my DVDs there. Be here all weekend.
Surviving the Outbreak. It's coming through me. It's $10. I advise everybody to keep away from the publisher. And I'm actually waiting on a stock right now. See if I'm getting that together. Maybe Zombie Fest. But if anybody's interested, you can get a nice, friendly, fair deal through me. I'm trying to avoid actually doing it through the publisher. They're a bit overpriced.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
All right.